It is Wednesday. So you know what that means, as it has been for the entirety of the spring. Arrows Up. It has been one of the segments that we're, at least I am, almost most proud of. There's, such excitement, at least for us, to see these young guys in professional rugby play in their own backyard. They get off to what is a tremendous start, all on the road. And then, of course, we know what happens. The pandemic hits, and then, I'll be honest, I thought, well, what are we going to do now if there's no season? The guys are going to come on. What are they going to talk about? Well, I got to be honest. This has been just a highlight of what we have done. And therefore, this, sadly, is the last one for the season. But, of course, there's going to be another season, and we look forward to exactly what would happen. And this morning we have both Bill Webb. Bill, how you doing?
Great. Thanks, Mike.
And, of course, Mark Winokur. Mark, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Really? That doesn't sound like it's good, Mark. I just got to say, that sounded like, are you having your last meal? What's happening?
He's doing great.
Look, I got to tell you, I think the best line came from Colby. So Colby Friends last week, I said, do you want to say anything about Mark? He goes, no, I want to keep my job.
And yet we challenge Colby sometimes about his intelligence, but see, he just proves it.
And having you both on is very fitting, simply because I was just saying to Dave, look, we've been doing this a long time, and I've certainly had an association with mostly professional teams. We've been lucky enough here in Mississauga to be with the Mississauga Steelheads, and their kids are just spectacular too. A lot of them, at least some of them, are going to move on to be professionals. I think of, oh boy, the Calgary Hitmen in Calgary. I certainly enjoyed my association with the Calgary Flames, and Stan Peters was wonderful. But in my 30 years, I don't know if I've enjoyed anything more than the association that I've had with your team. Those gentlemen, and I really mean that you have chosen to not only be spectacular at what they do for a living, as in that sport of rugby, but the personalities week after week. They're humble, they're funny, they're everything really. As a dad, those are the kinds of guys I want as my son. Those are the kinds of guys that I want.
What you wish for, Mike.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll adopt one.
Adopt any?
Andrew. I'll take Andrew, and we can have the same hair. That's what I'll do. But I just want to congratulate you guys on what obviously is a huge challenge as the world has gone under that. But the fact and the obvious unity that you have with those young guys, those that don't even live here, chose to stay because they feel that strongly about your team. So, Mark, I'll start with you. And once again, all seriousness, congratulations, because that vetting that you have done. I mean, you can take any athlete you want. You can take the only athletic side of things to put a team together. But you've done a lot more than that, and that was very evident on these Wednesdays at 8:10.
Well, listen, I mean, as I said a couple of times ago, culture is very important to us, because this is not a brand new team that started from nothing. This was really the amateur Ontario Blues, reborn as a professional side. And some of these guys have played rugby together for 10 or 12 years. So there was a pre-existing culture where they were comfortable with each other and they were used to success. So, there was no need to reinvent that. What the logical step was to make sure that guys we brought in fit into that culture rather than starting a new culture. So, we spent some good time on due diligence and talking to these guys in advance and kind of checking them out, what their reputation is in the rugby world, which is a very small one. And in general, it's worked out pretty well.
Well, Bill, as the owner, when you go into something like this, I mean, you really don't quite know what challenge you're going to have ahead. You got to be flexible. You kind of have to work with it. Obviously, you never saw this coming your way as in a global pandemic. But I think overall, when you look at what you had to do, and I guess in some ways what you need to do, Bill, what are the biggest challenges moving forward? What are the things sort of at the top of your list that you want and need to have happen for the Arrows coming up for next season?
Sure. Well, we've made a lot of progress already. We made a very quick decision to, as a league, and it was the right decision to shut things down. We knew we weren't going to be able to squeeze the season in this year. And so as an entire league and as a team, the Arrows, we're focused on 2021. So this pause, as many people have found in their lives, has actually given you a chance to dig deeper and work on some parts of your business plan, preparing to go back to our, we're very, very fortunate in that 95% of our season ticket holders have retained their tickets and just rolled them to next year. All of our sponsors have stayed on board. We're well through. We've begun to announce our roster for next year. And, we're very, Mark and his team are very close to completing that process. So now what we're doing is, just as we can see the beginning of the opening into, the beginning to gather again, maybe we're hoping on getting a couple of exhibition games in later this year. At some point, we've got some tentative dates. We've got people who want to play games. So it's really just up to the public authorities, but everyone's doing their bit. We're just focused on 2021 and this year, and players are staying in shape. We haven't skipped a beat, and we're just focused on the things we can control. COVID it'll run its course, and everyone's doing their bit to do that. And I think people really want professional sports back. So I think they'll just hoping that our public and our fans will, conduct themselves accordingly, so we get back playing in front of them soon.
Absolutely. You talk about the 2021 roster and how you're starting to fit it together, Mark and Bill, on this. I'll start with you, Mark. Breaking news this morning, maybe you can tell our audience, for anybody that has missed it, there's a key figure in that roster that will not be part of the 2021 season, and this just actually broke earlier on this morning.
It may have frozen.
Mark,
It may have
Yeah,
frozen.
Dan Moore, who was our captain.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Mark. Yep. Go ahead, Mark.
No.
Yeah.
Okay,
Can you
Mark.
hear us?
Dan Moore, who was, yep, I'm good. Dan Moore, who was our captain, has decided that, he's hit the age of 30. There's other things he needs to do. He wants to be in shape, to be able to run around when he's older, and he's just decided to step down from professional rugby. And it wasn't entirely unexpected. Dan is a bright guy with a lot of options, and I think, listen, everybody knows when it's time, right? So for some people it's later, for some people it's sooner. It was time for him, and pro sports is, listen, you're either all in or you're out. It's not something you can do as an afterthought. So Dan was pretty honest about that process. He'll stay involved as an advisor for us, and he'll be around the boys. And this was, the natural evolution of starting a team. We knew there would be a number of local guys who would start out with it, and then it would evolve, and the next generation would start to come through, and you'll see that in some of the signings coming up in the next couple of weeks. But we certainly appreciate Dan, absolutely awesome guy, and glad he's going to stick around and help us, off the field, and we'll look whatever path he finds success at it.
Well, as I said, the one thing too, about this pandemic, depending on the sport that you played, university sports, certainly south of the border was that way, is that, you're a senior. That's, that's taken away from you. Right? You don't get the chance to go to March Madness or whatever your sport happens to be. That's it. And that is the kind of cruel thing about it, is it takes away maybe a potential year where something could have happened. And for the Arrows, you couldn't have picked a better captain. I mean, you just couldn't have picked a better quality guy. I mean, there's almost every element that you want to see in a player and a human being. He's got that. So, looking forward, I guess, do you have to then start a process where you're going to have to find another captain?
Yeah, and that's not a process that falls to just us. I mean, that's a team. That's the team in the room, the guys, the coaches and staff and players together. And it's not as difficult as you think. Mm-hmm. You get to know people, and you get to know who can be a leader, and who's cool under pressure, and who can communicate to the ref, and who the guys respect and like. And, there are some people who are not cut out for that, and there's some people that are, but I don't think that will be a difficult decision for us at all.
Bill, you talked about this earlier in an earlier answer. I just wanted to dig a little bit deeper in on this. And we've kind of flirted with the idea of exhibition games later in the summer or in the fall. Is there any sort of, I guess, maybe the fairest way of saying, any sort of timeline where you're hoping that this could happen or anything like that, Bill?
You know, it's literally, there's the potential to play a couple of games, and it's really just a question of as soon as the authorities allow us to, in whatever format, with fans, without fans, socially distanced, we can adapt. And we've got teams that are ready, that want to play us, and we've got players that have stayed in shape and are ready to go. So we're just waiting. We can play anytime right up until we figure the first week of November is about as late as we can push it, and climate-wise, but you know, hopefully September, October, November, potentially what we look at.
Now, in terms of scheduling, has this altered then? I mean, almost every other professional league has had to do this, but because of where your schedule falls, do we have any idea of looking at 2021? Have we looked at scheduling yet, or is that still not a process that's happened?
No, that's well underway. I wouldn't say well underway, but it is underway. And you know, we're meant to start the second week of February, which is still, you know, 8 months away. And that there, you know, the plan is to start as scheduled, and go through the end of June. So a normal season. That's, you know, maybe one of the advantages we have over some of the other pro leagues. You know, when we talk to sponsors and broadcasters and so on, we have a higher degree of certainty, we feel, than some of those other ones. I mean, you know, baseball, that date shifted about 20 times. The NHL hasn't set a date. The NBA's date is this, it's that, it's the other. You know, we don't have that. We're pretty locked into February 12th, and you know, hopefully things will have. I mean, they will certainly look different at that point. So,
well, it's funny. You know, when we talk about an off season, this is obviously not part of what a lot of the players considered, but you know, a lot of them are busy guys, and of course the Van Horn Twin Towers there, they were hilarious. On you know, whether one was getting at the other. As I said, it's tough to be close when you're physically not able to be close and play as a team, but it was really obvious throughout this entire year that they just, they got each other's backs, and boy, they just come from everywhere. But even if they did play, you know, at Guelph or Western, McMaster, you know, they come in from Victoria, or of course all overseas. As I said, the segment has been so enjoyable. And in terms of the roster and the percentage coming back, what are we looking at, do you think, in terms of those coming back that basically have been on the roster this year?
you know, it's going to be high. It's still 6 months to go till training camp, but I would say we're probably going to be in the 85 to 90% of the guys will be back. You know, I wouldn't say, I doubt it'll be lower than 85. So, you know, basically the straight math is probably up to 5 out and 5 in.
Right.
Which out of 35, you know, I think that we're probably got the most continuity in the league. I'm gonna get somebody smarter than me to run those numbers, but you know, I think that's what it looks like, and we feel it gives us the best chance to win.
Now, when you start talking about those kinds of numbers, 5 out, 5 in, I mean, you've done yourself a great favor in that you've created a culture, as you mentioned, coming from the Ontario Blues. There's a cohesiveness. That's what players, if they're coming from afar, they kind of want to see it. Has Toronto now, as in the Arrows organization, become a place that guys want to come and play for?
You know, Mike, I mean, I don't think of it like that. I just look at, you know, what it is, what the perception, you know, outside, I couldn't say. I just know that we don't have any trouble attracting people. We don't have any trouble signing people that we want. We don't have any trouble keeping people. So that would seem to be the case, but that's for others to say, I think.
Okay, so it's for me to say that's what you've created, and people want to come and play here because
yeah,
that's
sure. Why not? Because
I do. I think it is our take. Dave, do you want to get into something here before?
Absolutely right. I echo a lot of the same statements Mike has said, and not only the players, but working with you two throughout the last number of months. Brock has been outstanding. It's all about making sure this Wednesday segment worked out to what I thought it could be. I think we accomplished that, and you know what? You made a lot of new fans across the GTA just by this one segment. It was definitely one of the most popular segments of our work week, and it's kind of disappointing that come July, August, you know, we'll probably still talk to you guys from time to time, but it just won't be as consistent until we start the season. And of course, we wish you nothing but the best moving forward.
Thank you, guys. It's been great working with you. It's been a great platform. I know our players and coaching staff who've participated have really enjoyed it. It's been a lot of fun, and we've had great feedback from our fans as well. So thank you for this.
Yeah, thanks for me, guys. And listen, you know where we are. Anytime you want to talk to us,
Yeah.
let us know. I mean, obviously you'd have to be pretty bored, but I think we'll take your call.
Well, I got to tell you, Mark, as I said beforehand, in 30 years of doing this, I don't know if I've enjoyed anything more than this. You guys have been fantastic. It has been something that we look forward to each and every week. I suppose next week we start what? Cricket Corner? I don't know what the hell we're going to do now.
No.
But whatever it is, it will pale in comparison to what we have been spoiled with for the last several months. So hopefully at some point when you can see each other, Mark, hook up for a beer or something. Love to see you, buddy. You've done just a brilliant job with this team. You really have. And Bill, congratulations on creating a very successful culture here in Toronto, and cannot wait till we actually get to see the boys on the pitch. So I wish you the best of summers, and hopefully get a chance to see you both personally soon.
You bet. Thanks.
We'll take you up on that beer. Hemingway's reopened at 12:01 this morning. So.
Oh, there you go. All right, we got the place. Absolutely. Thanks a lot, fellas.
Take care.
Thank you, guys. Talk soon.
That is Mark Winokur and Bill Webb of your Toronto Arrows, who have literally, in my mind, kind of spoiled us for the last several months with just the greatest of individuals they have on that team. And we feel kind of blessed to have that. And Dave's the one who found it. Dave said, "What do you think about the Toronto Arrows?" And I went, "Well, which ones are these now?" And he said, "Well, it's a brand new rugby." I said, "Rugby?" I said, "Well, that kind of sounds kind of cool. Let's give it a shot." Well, that couldn't have worked out better.